This is a family show. And
I
now
know.
back to and now let's talk about our first news item.
Yes. Speaking of 4K
Here
skin,
we go.
Elon Musk says, "Go F yourself" to advertisers leaving X. The photo that we'll post, obviously, from TechCrunch looks like he's got 4K skin. And the article opens up by saying, "Your move, Linda," said Elon, and said, "Go F yourself" to advertisers who recently paused spending on X after he endorsed an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory on the platform. On stage at the Dealbook conference, Andrew Ross Sorkin asked the ex-owner about these pauses in advertising, and Musk replied, "Don't advertise." And he said, "Wait a minute, what? You don't want them to advertise?" And he said, "Look, if somebody's going to try and blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go F yourself. Go F yourself." And then he waved out at the... It was pretty classic. I watched the video. It was pretty classic.
I haven't seen the video.
And then my favorite part is actually the "go F yourself" wasn't even nearly as interesting as what happened after. First of all, he goes, "Hi, Bob," waves out to the audience because Disney CEO Bob Iger was apparently at the event and may have been in the audience. Probably not, probably backstage, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
And then my favorite part, and they don't cover this in the coverage, was then he goes on to go, because the interviewer is clearly like at a loss for words. Like it's just clear. The interviewer is just like, I have no idea what to do here. So he said, "Really? You don't want them to, like, doesn't that like kill your company?" And Musk goes, "Well, we'll see what planet Earth has to say about that." It's just sure so classic
and he
Elon.
He probably just read the whole thing that came out about the 1.5 degrees Celsius increase. And so he probably thinks that the Earth is going to implode.
Yeah. And then, of course, today, Linda Yaccarino posted on X a whole, basically endorsement of that whole idea. And it's not going very well for her in the retweet space. So it is.
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to, I think his whole attitude here, it's really hard for me to glean what his long game is here, but or even if he has one, but it seems to me that he's moving exactly where you said he was going, which is, I'm trying to just basically break down the company to its bare bones, and I don't care how much money it makes. This is my plaything, and it's my toy, and I'm gonna do what I want.
I think it's a little bit more strategic, and we've talked about some of this. He wants to bring the valuation of the company down to such a point where he can buy back the debt holders for pennies on the dollar and get rid of them, because that's really what's holding up this whole thing. And we've talked at length, many episodes, about what's going on, where there's so much. Twitter is what they were valued at $44 billion when they took on all that debt, and now it's worth what? You can't even say it's worth $10 billion.
That's
because they've lost a good portion of their revenues, which were advertising. So I think they're all at a point. He's like, hey, let's just drive this thing down to nothing. He wants to buy the whole thing back so it can be his plaything, whether that becomes the payments app, everything app, whatever the case is. I think that's where he's at. This is very, very strategic. He loves when the media is covering like he's a loose cannon. He's lost it. He's insane. And that's exactly what he wants. But I think he's being very deliberate about this. It's just part.
Well, yeah. Let's draw a distinction though between deliberate and strategic. You know what I mean? So I think you're right. He is absolutely being deliberate about this and trying to bring the value to as close to zero as he can, so that basically, is it Morgan Stanley? I think it is. It's either Morgan Stanley or
it's one of them. I think it's one of them.
Yeah, one of them that holds the bulk is just going to have to get this off their balance sheet, and maybe he's trying to force them to get it off the balance sheet before the end of the year or something like that. But they need to get this debt, which is just crazy, So, and drawing the value even lower and lower and lower does that, of course. And at some point they have to pull the trigger, and then he can buy it back for pennies on the dollar, and then own the whole thing, which is what he clearly what he wants. The question is, it feels like it's a bit of a race, right? Which is, and it feels like he may be like accelerating that, stepping on the gas a little bit, because you can see that the race is, you can't do it to the point where everybody leaves, right? In other words, if you can drive the value down to a certain level and basically, have and buy it back for pennies on the dollar. But what are you buying at that point? Like if it's an empty room, then it really doesn't kind of matter. You've got this wonderful technology infrastructure with nobody using it. So,
well, the one thing that I want to say about that, I've seen a lot. So I basically said, hey, I'm making my last tweet over here on X, and I moved over to Threads, and a lot of the people on my Threads, whatever you call a thread, whatever my thread tweet, whatever that thing is, a lot of people said, oh, there's nobody over there, and everybody's leaving the platform. I'm more
That's
than
not
anything,
true.
I'm amazed by the loyalty of a lot of these large creators and media sites that are still going all in, even more so because they see the opportunity when people are leaving. So don't think that it's a ghost town over on X. There's still a lot of people, a lot of influential
people. If you want to talk,
content over there.
I 100% agree. If you're in the news space, because honestly, some of the things that I have seen is I'm like, when the OpenAI thing, certainly what's going on in Israel and Gaza, if you're into
how important it is,
that, you can still see that it's a relevant platform for those kinds of topics, whether it's politics, whether it's news, or whether it's in some way, some emotional, sort of fight or tension. And Threads is not that. Threads is much more where all of the business marketing / sort of people who look at social media in a much more quote unquote pleasant way are starting to collect. Threads is picking up. There's no doubt that Threads is picking up. I can see it. I can see it happening. I can feel it happening. And for the moment, it's very enjoyable. There's no ads, which is lovely.
It's not going to last being the nice version.
No, of course not. Of course not. It's going to, I mean, some of that stuff's going to bleed over, of course, 100%. Yeah.
But here's what I don't understand about Threads is, and I like it too. I agree with you. I think it's picking up steam. There's no doubt about it. And I went back on like, wow, look at all this engagement. It's really something.
Yeah.
But why they don't figure out the hashtag thing and prioritize news, and they could absolutely fill that void so that people that want to have that news experience can have it on Threads, because right now it's not built that way. I don't know why they aren't going that direction, because right now that's the opportunity sitting in front of Meta.
I think I think to your point, I think they have yet to figure out the consumer side, right? In other words, the consumer of content side. So if I just think about a celebrity for a moment, right? And if I'm a celebrity and I have millions of Twitter followers, millions of X followers, tens of millions of X followers, and I use that platform for my audience engagement, right? Just to talk to my followers, talk to my audiences, do the influencer thing, and do, use it as sort of a quasi press release for my celebrityhood. Well, that's still the place to do that, because that's where all those consumers of content are. They're not on Threads yet. However, if they can figure out a way to get the people that are, because the same thing happens on Instagram, right? So Instagram has that same level of celebrity thing, but it's really about photos and imagery rather than text. So I think there's a bit of a friction there of getting the consumers of short form text news into the Threads idea. They're just not signing up, right? They're just, I think those consumers, people like, for example, my wife doesn't create any content at all really on social media other than the occasional Facebook post, but she consumes a lot of social media on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook, of course, and hasn't signed up for Threads yet. And I asked her, I said, why haven't you done that? She's like, I don't know. I just haven't done it yet. I just haven't felt
it's not necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like who necessary
goes
to drink my own urine? No, sorry. That's a dodgeball. That's a dodgeball
reference. Yeah.
It's a great. There's another great movie.
Yeah,
but you've watched that one.
Oh, Dodgeball is a fantastic movie.
Because you're more into Vince Vaughn and Ben Stiller.
There's so many great people in that. I love Dodgeball. You can dodge a wrench. You can dodge a ball.